Hello, my name's Stephen Morris and welcome to Songs in the Key Off, a podcast about songs. These might be old songs, new songs or middle-aged songs, anything that takes my fancy really. Sometimes these shows will be themed around an idea, a person, a genre or some other concept. Other times they will simply reflect my latest obsessions, my new favourite bands, those songs I can't get out of my head. So let's get on with it. This episode is a rather special one as we're focusing on songs from just one album, Shiny Disposable Things by Joe Hook, friend of this parish. Shiny Disposable Things comes out on the 29th of June, and while it may be shiny, it's definitely not disposable. It's undoubtedly an introspective album, exploring themes rooted very much in Joe's own individual experience, as you'll hear her explain. But it's one of those incredibly human records where the universal can be found in the personal. So sit back and enjoy. I think you're going to like this one. Hi Joe, how are you doing?
Hi Stephen, yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you.
So we're here today as part of the exciting arrival of your new album, which is coming out later this month on the 29th of June, which you're very excited about, obviously. It's called Shiny Disposable Things, isn't it?
It is called Shiny Disposable Things, yes.
Yeah,
and I'm excited. Do I look it?
You do look excited, yes, yeah. So, over the course of this podcast, it's a bit different to a regular Songs in the Key Off podcast. We're just going to be focusing solely on this album and some of the songs from it. So a couple of weeks back, you released your first single from it, which is called I Will Dance,
Right, yeah.
Featuring an amazing video of you dancing in some woodlands.
Wellies.
Wellies, brilliant, and a glitter ball hanging from the branches of a tree.
Yes, I think we need more wellies in music videos for sure.
Absolutely, definitely, yeah. Tell me a bit more about that song. Why is that such an important song? Why is that like the first thing that we've heard from the album so far?
So I think the first thing is that it's one of the most upbeat songs on the album, and I wanted to launch with an upbeat song, but also the kind of album is a culmination of a lot of years of interruptions to my life and lots of learning. And I Will Dance is a kind of very simple exploration of how to keep going when things are tough and what it requires and the kind of, I often talk about dancing quite a lot, and I have done in my songs. Dance is a kind of very interesting thing in society because there's these kind of structures, or there can be structures to how you do it. There's kind of social context to how you do it. And I Will Dance is a kind of reference to the kind of structures and social context of how we live our life, but also about the idea of just keeping on going. So it's a song that matters to me because it it's basically a self conversation about just get up, keep going, do it again, try again.
Yeah.
The moves, the steps, you know who you are. It was a really, really nice reaction to it, actually. I was really chuffed. I didn't really know what to expect, and I was really, really pleased with the reaction to it so far. Just brimming with positivity about it. It was the feedback.
Yeah.
So I feel very lucky about that.
You even got a radio play in Canada the other night, I believe.
Yeah, that was Newfoundland, which is somewhere up the north. There's another radio station that I think there were two other radio stations that kind of picked it up. Had an interview with one of those the other day. I think it was somewhere around Bexhill. So, but it's been really nice to talk to people about that single and the kind of forthcoming album, as it is talking to you. try again. And I would always fall, I would blame it on them all. I would dance, I would try again. It's a samba, mambo, foxtrot and the waltz. Wave my arms around and make a force. But I prefer individual movement. I would dance, I would try again. I would dance and try again. Yeah.
So what was it that sort of sparked the idea for the album as a whole? Was there a particular thing that thought, right, I need to do a new album now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, about 2 years before lockdown, how bizarre is that? It's kind of a little bit Freudian, isn't it? I was starting to think about doing another album. And I started to kind of think about what did I want that to look like and what did I want it to sound like. And I think it kind of started with me going to see a friend of mine's gig and seeing this piano player, a guy called Perry White, and I kind of just like, this is a person. I had one of those moments, and went up to him and said, you know, you're the kind of piano player that I really need. I really want to play with you. And I kind of, you know, threw some songs at him. He agreed to kind of meet with me and threw some songs at him. And he also brought a couple of songs along as well. And I started to kind of realize that we had something. And then I got in touch with Richie Bates, who's also I've worked with for a very long time. He's a fantastic bass player. And I put the three of us together as an ensemble, and we started kind of getting together the basic songs for the album with one co-write in it. And then lockdown came, and it all kind of dribbled away, really. Everyone kind of re-looked at their priorities. You know, were concerned. Some of us had COVID and still weren't better. So it's been, but I kind of hung out and thought, I'm just going to hold out for this. So I waited another year, and went back to them and said, I'm still hoping that you'll work with me. And this time they were ready. And so, and what I wanted to do was take a selection of songs that I'd written over the last 10 years and some earlier, and new stuff, and put it together in this ensemble with this kind of sound. And that's what we did. So I wouldn't say I kind of started off with a really firm plan. I knew I wanted to collaborate. I knew I wanted to work with Perry and Richie. And what happened was we started to pull in other musicians for specific songs. And so it became much more of a collaboration of wider artists, which is quite different to other albums I've done before. You know, because I've either done a kind of an album with session musicians or an album with the band that I was in, Hook. I mean, that was a really great setup. And then obviously I did my previous album with Jeffrey Richardson. Yeah. So this was a kind of new take on things, new take on playing. And I'd say it was iterative more than a kind of plan, but it was like I had a sense of something more than a knowledge of something. And I gave it the time to grow. And I think that's how we arrived to where we are now. And I'm really happy with that. You know, I didn't rush it through or anything. It took a while.
Yeah. And so sort of thematically, we've spoken away from the microphone, and you told me that it's quite a, you know, maybe your most personal album yet. What's the sort of overriding themes that are coming through?
I think it's my most personal album on a number of fronts. I think there's a lot of material in there that I'm obviously reflecting on learned lessons, whereas I think material that I produced when I was younger, I was still learning.
Mhm.
Still having my reactions to life, and I think this is an album where I'm much more clear about who I am and what I will and won't do.
Yeah.
I also think there's more commentary here from me on things that matter to me, and it's a blend of kind of reflective. There's certainly some material in there which is much more reflective on my personal health journey, and it's much more exposing of my journey in that sense. So a song on there called Needles and Weasels, for example, is very much about what it's like when you realize you're extremely ill and in hospital, and kind of the things that you pick up when you're on significant amounts of medication and
There's
kind
a
of
real
pain management.
brutal vulnerability to that song. It's very beautiful, but very, yeah, you can really feel the agony and the fear in that
Yeah,
song.
and
Yeah.
and and it was. I mean, there is a song on another album that's called Eight, that appeared, hmm, I think, on the last album, which is about a similar thing, but that's more about kind of hope. This one is more about being afraid, and I think that vulnerability comes into it.
Please, won't you please pull out all the stars from the darkness? Oh, tie the dots, pull the string, pull them down and turn them into promises. 'Cause I'm just a child who is having such a frightful dream of needles, weasels, doctors, toxins, and magazines, and I'm scared. I'm scared.
The other thing I think that's more personal about this album is that I've done so much more of the music and the instrumentation and the arrangement, and the production. So it's much more a labor of love for me in terms of creating a sound, in terms of playing instruments that people might not have known that I played. Um,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of my musicianship, if I can say that word, on this album, and that's more personal, and it's something I'm a little scared of, because I've only really ever shown myself to be more or less capable of strumming or picking an acoustic guitar. But I do a lot more electric guitar. I play harmonica. I do keys. Kind of. I even insisted on a triangle at some point. Very important triangle moment. So for that, for the whole project, both kind of emotionally in terms of the content and the music, it's the one thing I knew that I wanted to do was be more honest,
Yeah.
and be more, okay, this is who I am. I've hidden myself for quite some time, really. Even on album covers, I didn't have my photo on and stuff, whereas this time I'm still looking at
Yeah.
the floor, but it's better than
Yeah.
it's better than nothing.
Where
And
was it?
doing
You
video
told
stuff.
me some time ago where it's in some very distant location that you had that photo taken. Where was it?
Oh, it was New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah, it was taken in a kind of shack that was created because New Mexico has kind of got quite popular with the film industry. I
Hmm.
think because it has kind of elements of kind of cowboy-esque filming.
Yeah.
It could pass as other um other states, but I think, for now, it's still a bit cheaper than filming in Hollywood areas. And so this place that I was in was a kind of shack, and I think they filmed something like City Slickers in it. And but it's open to tourists, so it was quite funny because I'm trying to have poncy photos taken, and tourists looking in the window. Trying not to be kind of, I was trying to kind of not give the impression that, it's our shack today. But we didn't ask for permission. We just kind of went in there and took photos. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a cool place actually. It was a place where Georgia O'Keeffe used to have some dwellings and did a lot of her art from. So
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah.
The next single, which I suspect will have been released by the time this podcast comes out, is "Lost Country." Again, that comes with a really beautiful video by created by Nikki Cure. Very different to "I Will Dance," a lot slower.
Yeah.
So what's the sort of story behind "Lost Country"?
Okay, so it's important to know that The Lost Country is a co-write between myself and Perry White.
Okay.
So Perry brought the music to me when we first started meeting to practice, and I was really taken. I think it was called The Lost Cowboy originally, and I went away and kind of started kind of working on it. And for me, it is a bit of a commentary about where we are in in the kind of world. So it became a kind of naive, wistful piece on where things are at, what we value as a society, what seems to be news, what seems to matter. And kind of to me, what really matters, the things that really matters is, being a good person.
Yeah.
It's quite simple. It's not a kind of difficult message, and it's not a new one either. And I'm not claiming that it is new, but it's just it's my own kind of take on and kind of commentary on things that matter. So, for example, I talk about doubting at princesses, shouting at princesses, and what I'm actually talking about is how shitty we are to, kind of like Meghan Markle's a very good example of that. It's just somehow everybody loves to get behind this kind of narrative of hatred. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm a massive fan, but I think what's interesting to me is it seems to galvanize something kind of and Meghan Markle's a good example of that. What it's if it's not her, it's someone else. You'll get kind of galvanized and kind of a sense of adrenaline and a sense of community and kind of hating things or distrust and I think we've got more in that sense. And it's getting more important to kind of be discerning about the information we have. So, the Lost Country is very much about kind of, look, we're in a situation. You might not know it because of the way I write lyrics, but it's not prose. It's the way my brain describes things, I'm afraid. But I'm really happy with that song, and it's my first co-write that I've released, and it's a lovely piece, and I'm really proud to have written it with Perry.
Those people, they nod right, they sway left, they turn like a needle, and all of those secrets, if you don't buy, you won't fly. Learn to be reasonable. Just give a little love in the world. are easier when we are doubting our princesses. All of those castles of capital animals chasing the bulls free. Just give a little love in the world. Give a little love in the world. Just give a little love in the world.
So that was a snippet of The Lost Country by Joe Hook and Perry White, which is the second single to come off Shiny Disposable Things. Talking of Shiny Disposable Things, that is the name of another song from the album, as well it being the title of the album, and it's going to be a single as well a few weeks down the line. So you've chosen that as the title of the album. Is there a particular reason why this song particularly stands out, that this is why I need to call the whole album after this song?
Yeah, there is. I've talked about this album being more kind of introspective and reflective. It's a combination of reflections on experiences, but also on kind of learning about what matters to me. And without kind of, I never want to talk about these things in terms of a poor me situation, but I want to talk about them in terms of the learning. And for me, what I've learned through having significant health issues and also nearly carking it a couple of times is what matters, and what doesn't matter, more importantly, and where you don't put your energy. And Shiny Disposable Things is a song that's, again, it's slightly kind of it's a statement on things that we value, and also how we are capable of brushing over the kind of inanity of things. Is that the right word? How we're capable of doing that. We kind of, there's all this kind of stuff that we buy into, but it's all right because we had a good night, or we went out and we had a nice meal, or we had a good laugh. And on one hand, you kind of need all that in terms of survival and getting through, but also they can be kind of used as distractions, which is also really critical. But for me, what I don't want to forget is the lessons that I learned when I was at my lowest, which is some of these things just don't matter at all. And so Shiny Disposable Things is, I called it that because I kind of, we're in this kind of disposable world, and I'm not just talking about kind of stuff, although that worries me and concerns me a lot. But everything we do is that we seem to be in a world there. Everything is kind of throwawayable, and we don't tend to think of the consequences too much. And I think as you get older, and as you stop having the kind of freedom and choices that you had previously, you start understanding the impact of that more. So I could have called it something else, but Shiny Disposable Things just felt like, and also there's irony in it, because here is a shiny disposable thing. I get that. I get, it's almost impossible not to be hypocritical.
Well, it's a case of getting the balance right, isn't it, I suppose, ultimately?
Well, trying to. And there's no judgment on anyone, really. It's just kind of things that I've learned for me, really, and how I want to be. So, I'm just kind of looking at it thinking, could I have called it something else? I could have done. But that just felt like, it felt like the most important thing to kind of say, look, this is what this one's called.
I suppose it kind of ties in to my head as a listener, at least, with the song we were just talking about, "Lost Country," which that's like we were talking about like views of people and like throwaway opinions, and we'll raise them up one week and throw them away the next, and that's
Yeah,
so it's whether we're talking about stuff or opinions or
exactly.
everything's
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
everything's just throwaway, isn't it?
exactly. And
Uh,
I think, when I was kind of in a position where I was lamenting on the possibility of loss of life, which, was
yeah.
a very real thing, I learned that there were things that didn't matter at all that I thought mattered. I spent a lot of time and energy, a
Mm,
lot of time and energy getting very het up about certain things. And then kind of, when I realized that, I thought things were going the wrong way, my main concern was, did the people I know, did the people that I loved know that I loved them? Had I done
mm,
enough?
yeah.
And and once you kind of know that, it really helps guide your choices. And
Mm,
I don't think I get it right all the time. I'm a massive hypocrite many times, and I'm only human. But it's a very helpful guiding principle to kind of go, okay, well, when I suddenly all this other stuff doesn't matter. Actually, you don't
yeah.
think about, have you traveled to this place, or have you reached this point in your career, or have you done this? You just go, okay, do the people that I care about know? If I'm not here to tell them, do they know? Have I
Yeah.
proved it? Have I shown them? And
Mm.
to me, that was important.
Strange. Nobody cares if you live or you die. Nobody cares if you work hard to try. And shame. People making the biggest of rings. Material girls and the joy that they bring. Shiny disposable things. But it's alright, somebody's telling a joke, alright, somebody's making you smile, alright, everything is beautiful, and it's alright, somebody's doing a deal, alright, somebody's making you feel alright, everything is usual.
So that was a bit of "Shiny Disposable Things," the title track from Joe Hook's new album. Another song that has stood out for me is "Shuttled Inspector Choirs," which is a bit of a pacier tune and tells the tale of someone being rescued at sea.
Yes, it was me.
It was you. So
It was,
I got
it
the
was me being
impression
rescued.
that it was genuine autobiography, but you never know. It could have been a completely made up story. So it actually did happen. So
Yes.
to give us a bit of a background on what happened here.
Okay, so I and my partner, I used to have a little kind of rib dinghy,
Yeah.
and used to go out in the estuary, kind of around Konya, Faversham way. And as usual, I threw myself into the excitement of things without any knowledge. And I didn't really understand that it was neap tide, which I now understand means that everything happens twice as fast. And we had this jolly, lovely time, took selfies, it all looked marvelous. And then I realized that suddenly the boat had stopped, and there had been a kind of vapor lock on the petrol cap.
Yeah.
So we couldn't open it. And at the same time, the tide was going out. So I was desperately trying to row us back in. I was rowing for an hour. Then, as the tide was going out, I was quite proud of myself for rowing that for that long and that far. But yeah, managed to row back to the mouth of Cognac Creek. And we tried to open the petrol cap. It finally opened, but by the time we put the petrol in and kind of got it sorted, we drifted out again, like almost exactly back to where I'd started. And so we started the boat and went back again to the mouth of the creek, and then realized that the tide had gone out so much that it was too low. Water was too low. Now, embarrassingly, this has happened to me before. So, but the time before, we'd all got out and walked along the creek and pulled the boat. So I thought this was entirely possible. So I said to my partner, "You stay there. I'll get out. I'll rescue us. I'll heave the boat back to Cognac Creek across, in the mud, like a, macho heavy thing at 5 foot." And I stepped in the wrong bit. I didn't kind of step in the creek itself. I stepped in the marsh and sunk. And so I was absolutely stuck. First of all, kind of up to my knees in mud. But as I stayed there, I was up to my bum. So we called the emergency services. And of course, they couldn't find us because we weren't kind of on land, and they couldn't really get to us because the tide had gone out. So we waited, I think, about 2 hours. And the thing that helped them find us was that I had access to an app called What 3 Words. And that generated the 3 words of Shuttled Inspector Choirs, which is why it's called that. So eventually somebody from the Coast Guard spotted us, was on the other side of the bank, and he couldn't reach us. So I think some firemen arrived, and they threw a rope to the boat. My partner held on, and we pulled the boat towards me. And then I was taught how to pull myself out of the mud by crossing the kind of paddles like this. I have to say, I'd been in the mud for 2 hours. I was really, 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 really cold, and I was beginning to get dozy, and it had been raining. So I actually think that I used all my remaining energy trying to get out. But I managed to get in and managed to get into the boat. And then they realized that there was no way that we could walk. So they were like huskies. It was unbelievable. It was like they took the engine off, threw it over their shoulder like it was a chip. Like it was like weighed nothing, whereas I can barely lift it. Oh.
Yeah.
And they basically pulled the boat through the marsh, and there's all these kind of I don't know what you call it. There's kind of massive drops throughout the field, so it's not like a flat field. It's like kind of half land, half river. And they were falling in 5 foot drops. They're falling in. They were pushing us over. They were incredible. And they pushed us to a safe point until they could then take us separately to an ambulance.
Yeah.
And everything in that song is true. So for example, we'd got in an ambulance. We got back to the marina. I'd been told they didn't want me to drive home because I wasn't looking too great. And some of the boat owners were affronted by the disturbance to their nice afternoon. And we're running around. You could hear them say, "Hello, we've all got lives here. We've all got lives." And then I unfortunately lost my temper because I heard a man being racially abusive. So my partner had gone to park the car somewhere else, and I got out to the ambulance. Oh, I'd thrown all my clothes away as well because there was just nothing. So I had to wear a hazmat suit. That's all I had on, and was a paper suit, some little plastic booties, because I had to peel it all off, so I had nothing to wear. And so I came out to the ambulance, and because I can't stand racism, I started having this kind of argument with this guy, after being rescued, who just said some very unforgivable things, and then accused me of being an immigrant in a small boat, which I thought was a bit really quite funny, actually, considering it's like, well, what would I do turning up in Conyer Creek? So the whole thing was just, so everything in the song is true. And, well, as with all things stressful, I tend to find things very amusing and funny, whilst I think it's a coping mechanism. I think it's also having a 1970s, 1980s childhood where everything is just ridiculous in comedy. So everything was like a carry-on film in my head. And that happens a lot when I'm in perilous situations. I suddenly start finding it very funny. But, that night, it suddenly when I looked at the bruises, on me, and the impact of the mud and how I couldn't walk, and actually how serious it'd been, that I was actually properly stuck and couldn't move and couldn't help myself, and thinking, crikey, we're really lucky. So I mean, it's a absolutely unembellished song in terms of the narrative, and I was extremely grateful for the amount of resource, public services that came our way. I mean, even there was something in the paper saying, these two women were rescued, and people were commenting on being, having not a clue, and I can't really disagree with them, to be honest. But those who know me well know my life is peppered with these kind of incidents, so it's nothing new. I do get into scrapes, mostly by being very optimistic and naive sometimes.
I think that's the line that really sticks out for me is just about the kindness of the people who were helping you. All the men were very kind to us.
They were really kind, and they're thinking, the people, the lifeboat guys, I mean, they were just so non-judgmental, because quite frankly, I was a bloody idiot. I should have learned, I should have known, I should do a little bit of research before I decide that, I want to become an intrepid explorer on the creek. Yeah, I'm going to have adventures and a picnic in a boat. I'm such a twat like that sometimes, but they were so kind in explaining, what had happened with the tide, because I was just baffled. I don't understand. I turned up at the right time. I knew when the tide was coming in. I knew when the tide was coming back out. I timed it all. It was all, I'm here to impress. And they're just amazing. I mean, this guy gave me his hat, his own kind of woolly hat. Because I was so cold, and I was just going into shock, and he took his own hat off his head and gave it to me, and I managed to find him to give it back to him. I kind of washed it and found him and met him at RNLI in Whitstable, Kent, and it's just that kind of kindness and that kind of humanity of, and I'm glad I got to give him the hat back, really. Washed it, wasn't still covered in estuary mud. So.
A pleasant day on the estuary, the rescuer, she thinks, with rope in hand. The sinking mud put us stop to the shenanigans. There's nothing we could do at all. So for trolls, call stupidity, but they don't see you held me in your arms. Our aching backs put a stop to the shenanigans. There's nothing we could do but call. 2 hours of wind and wet, then found a long, long way from the home place fires. 15 men pushed us to higher ground, thanks to them.
So that was a bit of Shuffled Inspector Choirs. Now, there's a song on the album called Strange World 2, and the 2 element intrigued me. So I ransacked your archive and discovered there was indeed a Strange World 1, or just Strange World at the time, from your album Inside Out. So are the 2 songs related, or you just thought, I'd like that title again?
I think the strangeness of the world, or the strangeness of life, has always been something I've commented on. Strange World, the first one, was written for a friend who at the time kind of wasn't really open for love and kind of was limiting themselves, or I thought. But I was an opinionated 19-year-old then, so what do I know? Strange World 2, it was again was a commentary on kind of where I sit in the world, and my own stuff, and also kind of my own battle with mental health. So kind of I do think I've lived a kind of quite a different type of life, based on my experiences. That doesn't mean that I'm more extraordinary or more special. I've just had different experiences because of health, and mental health has been part of that. And Strange World 2 is very much about kind of where I sit within the world, and how the world reacts to me. And the world means interpersonal relationships, not the world. So how I feel in context to things, and there's a lot of kind of there's a lot of it's one of my older songs actually that I decided to record, and it really is about me struggling with my place in the world, and whether or not I should have been here or not. And I think look, if I'm really honest about it, I started off at 5 months old with kidney failure, and all of the other babies in the hospital died except for me, at the same time. And then as I grew up, there was I had these experiences where doctors would say things like, they would come up to me and say, "We've seen your name. The last time we saw you, you were dying." And kind of growing up with that kind of narrative is very confusing, because you kind of believe you get told you're a miracle, you get told you're extremely strong, but you also get told you're extremely weak. And it's
so that
really
fits
confusing.
in with Star Child and Good Thing, the themes of those 2 songs as well then.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of quite touched that you're getting the themes of the album. Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's Strange World 2 is, it's like it's about not feeling like I should be here, not really understanding why did I survive when others didn't? How did I get so lucky to have a transplant when others didn't? But then there's other things. There's there's near drowning incidences. I was extremely, and I'm not exaggerating, extremely close to the nail bomb in Brixton when that went off. So I've had tons and tons of experiences.
Yeah.
Where I'm kind of going, hang on a second, I don't get this anymore. And you know, along with the kind of mental health aspect of it, you kind of question your value. And Strange World 2 is a lot about that, really.
Yeah.
And kind of not being good enough. And it's also, what are my own expectations of myself? Because if you're brought up being told you're a miracle, you kind of expect this kind of mode of people talking to you in a certain way. And then as you grow up, you realize it's irrelevant to others. You're not that special, you're ordinary. And you have to kind of change your thinking, because it's not about arrogance, it's generally about the narrative I was told. There's no one to blame for that either. There's no kind of it's just how experiences have shaped us. So Strange World 2 is a very vulnerable piece for me, because it really is, you know, that there's, you know, Wish I Wasn't Here is about, you know, was about thinking that I shouldn't be here, and that I should do away with myself. But then, you know, after doing a lot of work, just as a commentary, I realized that it wasn't that I wanted to end my life. I just wanted the situation to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, you know, and that I couldn't make the situation change. So I had to kind of think about it differently. And music's one of the ways I've always done that.
People keep talking about me like they know my name. They know my name. I keep my head high, I keep walking. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. I don't need no one to listen. I don't want no one to care. Wish I wasn't here. I don't need no one to whisper. I don't want no one to stare. Wish I wasn't here. Wish I wasn't here. Like my love, I'm never good enough. Wash me out, and then you scream and shout. Wipe my eyes. Oh, and it's just a strange world after all.
So that was a bit of Strange World 2. Next question. What is a kind Comanche?
Well, Comanche are a Native American tribe. And I was referring to two people who were arguing, and
Okay.
I was using two different tribes. It should actually be Blackfeet rather than Blackfoot, but I've referred to Blackfoot and Comanche in the song. It was about a relationship I had where there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of distress, and how it was a kind of constant up and down roller coaster. And you know, really, it was a relationship song where everything was not great, but I used kind of Native American tribes as a kind of expression of, you know, kind of never the twain shall meet, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one of my older songs. And it's one of the ones on the album where it kind of showcases more of the acoustic guitar. It's funny because on the album, I wanted to take some bits off, and Perry was very clear that he really, really loved certain bits of the acoustic, so I kept more in for him than I would have done. But yeah, that's a song about kind of relationship problems, relationship breakdown, and what do you do when kind of everything's calmed down, but you kind of know it's going to happen again. Often, things based on alcohol don't go so well when there's tensions within a relationship and stuff, and alcohol can exacerbate that. And that's a song about knowing that, knowing there's a problem, knowing that there's significant issues, and not really knowing what to do.
Where are we now? Where the fence is up, walls apart. Where are we now? We've been asking this right from the start. And all the love you had to ask for, all the love you had to dance for, all the love. All the breakups, oh my love, where are we now? Where are we now? You're a cool Blackfoot out in the fields. Where are we now? Comanche behind the wheel. And all the love you had to ask for, all the love you had to dance for, all the love. And all the pain and all the aching, all the fights, all the breakups, oh my love, where are we now? It's past and gone away, where are we now? We're okay, and everything is fine. It's impossible to tell, my love, where we will be in time.
So that was a snippet of Kind Comanche. I just wanted to ask you a bit more about the recording process. There's a lot of musicians that you've gathered in. You talked about Perry and others, but there's a very large selection of backing vocalists and all kinds of other musicians. Tell me a bit about how you collected them and what the sort of recording process was like with them.
Okay, so I mean, I think we're in a really interesting time musically. I'm sounding like it's right and current, but it isn't. But I think what's great is it is possible to have people do things from other parts of the planet, which I did, and send it in. So, for example, on I Will Dance, the banjo is played by Don, who's based in Colorado, I believe.
Okay.
And I met him through a gig I went to in New Mexico, and approached him and said, look, I love your playing. Would you be interested in playing on a track for me as a session musician? And to which he agreed. And kind of, so, on one hand, we've got, and some of the backing vocalists also did their work at home, and some came to the studio themselves. So it was a blend of where people preferred to work and what people could make. So some of the musicians are professional musicians and extremely busy, so it's easy for them to do it in their own time, and send it in. And some of us got together, but everybody that I gathered, I already had apart from Dawn, I would say, I already had an established relationship with, either a kind of long-standing trusted friendship or a musical friendship. And you mentioned the backing vocals. They were really important because I was going for a type of sound. And I just had this sense that together these four people would make this kind of really lovely mellow sounds. Like I had no proof of it other than just a gut feeling. And it was kind of amazing to kind of sit there for the first time and listen to everybody singing. We had this kind of practice around my house, and to sit there and go, bloody hell, that, you know, that's really lovely. So and like I've said before, a lot of the musicians I work with are by far superior to me in their musicality, their skills base, their knowledge, their professionalism, and I feel absolutely blessed that they will work with me and provide that kind of professional framework. So everybody apart from Don I'd worked with previously, there was a song called A Good Thing, and I contacted a guitarist I used to work with about 13-14 years ago called Terence Rage, and I said, I want to do this track, you've recorded it with me previously, how do you feel about doing it? And he drove all the way to come and redo it. And it was really lovely to kind of feature him, as it were, and to go back to, you know, a kind of different time when I was working with different people. So there are, you've got a guy called Paul Herwin who appears, who I used to play with in my 20s. He makes an appearance on Kind Comanche. Richard Kilner plays guitar on one of the songs. Terence Rage plays guitar. Then we've got Don on banjo. Jeffrey Richardson has also played some strings on the album. And then in backing vocals, we've got Emily Peacegood, Kate Lindevere, Bob Carling, Gavin Alexander, who are just a lovely group. Had a guy called Nick Andrews on Baran, a friend of mine, come in. Another friend of mine called CJ came in and did Cajon. And a long-standing drummer I work with called Paul Townsend also came in to do drums. What an amazing musician he was. I mean, he couldn't make the day of recording, so he came in and did it afterwards, you know, which was just amazing. It's a very difficult thing for a drummer to do. So kudos to him, you know, and CJ as well. They both kind of weren't there at the beginning of the recording and managed to put down some pretty good kind of work. And so it was really, really lovely to work with such a diverse group of people, and people I really like, respect and care about as well. So you know, I recently did a little reel on it, and I put you know, one of these Jack Johnson songs, Happy Together. And it's a bit cheesy, but it kind of, you know, it was kind of like there was a lot of love going around. A lot of love, a lot of laughter. And no ego. And it was really, really wonderful to kind of be able to say, actually, this sounds good here, this sounds good here, this person would be great for that, this person would be great for that. Yeah, I feel extreme gratitude and real humility towards those other folk.
I remember when we did a podcast before, when you were talking about other people's songs, you were talking about how you sort of identified a lot with Joan Armatrading in a way, and that you know, you're finding it, people can't quite pigeonhole you, and it's like, what? How do we? Where do we put her?
Yeah, always been a thing.
And it's something that you kind of celebrate in a way, because you've got Perry, who's this amazing jazz pianist, and then you've got a guitarist who's sort of bringing a Dire Straitsy vibe, and then there's all kinds of other stuff. I think once you told me about some sort of reggae influence you had in a song. There's all kinds going on, isn't there?
Yeah, and I kind of, you know, I think for years I used to try and kind of push myself into a mold. And then I think with this album, I've just gone, no, it's okay. It's okay to not be so definable. And it's okay to suddenly throw in something quiet in the middle of the song, as I have done in other albums, or in the case of Old Socks, throw in, a random 4/4 rock moment. And that's okay. And it's fun, and it's non-formula. I'm not saying that it's special. I'm not saying that I'm the most original, but I'm saying that, I think now at my age, I'm kind of comfortable with what it is.
Yeah.
So it's
So
great.
I guess when you were saying about getting together those four singers, you had an idea in your head,
Yeah, I did.
and that was not based on any, oh, I want it to sound like this or that style of music. It was just, no, this is the Joe Hook way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, I've tried to kind of, people have said, can you bring me something? And I've kind of gone, okay, I can kind of bring you something, but I think with me, and to be honest, I have to really, really give a lot of credit and recognition to Richard Kilner at Canterbury Sound Studio, because, I've led us down some interesting paths. Because I've not known how something would turn out, but he's never been irritated or never shown irritation, or he's just been very pragmatic, and also he's understood what I'm trying to do. He's understood that I'm aiming for something, that I know what it is, and I'll only know when I hear it. So not having the sufficient language to articulate it from the beginning is quite tricky. But I think as we started working together, he started understanding if I'd start going, it needs to be like this, and make a stupid face, he would kind of start to understand what I meant and would start going, are you saying this? Are you saying that? And he would help interpret almost. And that became something really important to me, to have the kindness of patience and time while I was trying to get somewhere that I couldn't articulate at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop until it was at the place I wanted to be at. And, and I'd be sitting on something for 4 months thinking it was fine, but there'd be something niggling at me going, there's something not right, something not right. And I'd be saying, there's something not right. And Richard would kind of help me, through spending time together, through the recording process, through me trying to explain where I'm going. He would help me articulate and find a way forward. And I really, that's an invaluable partnership to me. It was really, really invaluable, and it made the process for me. I think I learned a lot more. He's extremely experienced sound engineer, but he's also an extremely experienced and intelligent musician, who understands kind of about sound and the kind of science of sound. So, I'm just constantly going, oh, really? At him. And he's always explaining everything to me. And I'm, and when I've done something, he said, do you realize that you've done something that's quite textbook here? I'm like, no. And, or he's saying, well, do you realize you've done something that actually people don't normally do? And I'm like, no. So, it was a really great learning experience as part of the recording. So I don't want to leave him out and talk about him just as a musician, because as a kind of, as a sound engineer, as a friend, as a bit of a mentor as well, I have to kind of put in there. I've learned significant amounts from Richard, and he's an absolute diamond and a lovely guy.
Brilliant. Let's close off with a snippet from another song, and so Star Child.
I was kind of going for a folk-esque thing, and I wanted a kind of unison thing, not a harmony thing. Yeah, and it's an extremely simple kind of, almost, kind of folky nursery rhymey type song, but it was one of the things that sounded really beautiful with the singers, and giving them the chance to kind of have their own take on it. A lot of the stuff that they did, wasn't me. In fact, with the backing vocalists and most of the musicians, everybody was asked to bring themselves, not do
Mm.
what I asked them to do, you know, because
Yeah.
in my mind it was, I've written a framework of a song and I wanted everybody else's take on it. I didn't want to kind of dictate what people must play and what people must sing, apart from, okay, this bit I definitely want in unison, but that's because I've envisaged Star Child like that. Yeah, I mean that was lots of good. That was a lot of fun. I attempted to conduct, as usual. I had no experience in conducting. I had no idea what I was doing at all. There are pictures of me looking like I'm conducting, but I think I was just waving my hands around, trying to make some encouraging noises and say, "You're coming in here." But instead of doing that, I think I was just doing that. Yeah, full on professional hook there. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I guess it was kind of nice for me with Star Child to kind of work out how I, you know, because it had actually been written on piano originally by me, although I don't claim to be a pianist. But some of the songs on the album were written by me on piano. I was not going to attempt to do that on the album and play keys, but not piano. So everything always sounds like Chariots of Fire when I play. But yeah, it was great. I kind of love everybody who sang on Star Child. It was great. I'm hoping when we do it live that everyone will join in. They were making jokes last night about people clapping along, you know, with their arms in the air. I have no ability to create that thing that people do. I might have to stare at someone else to do it. I'll be too embarrassed. Unless I have a drink and then suddenly, you know, I'll be up for doing star jumps, which I have done before on stage.
Wow. I look forward to that.
You lucky
Right
people.
then. Sorry?
I said, you lucky people.
Lucky people. Let's we should probably end it there, I think. But thanks very much for this. Thank you for the album. Basically, it's a beautiful thing, and everyone in the world can enjoy it on the 29th of June. To play us out, let's listen to a snippet of Star Child from Joe Hook's new album, Shiny Disposable Things. Thanks very much, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, mate.
If you can't find love, let's not fret it. Just look me up and take me home and lay me down. We'll both regret it. Just hold me close, not be alone.
So there you have it, a selection of songs in the key of Shiny Disposable Things, all taken from Joe Hook's new album, Shiny Disposable Things. I hope you liked them. I certainly did. Shiny Disposable Things will be out on the 29th of June 2024. You'll be able to find it at, among other places, Joe Hook singer-songwriter.bandcamp.com. If you can't wait till then, the singles I Will Dance and The Lost Country are also available from Joe's Bandcamp right now. And if you want to hear more from me chatting with Joe, please feel free to trawl through the archives of Songs in the Key of, where you'll be able to find Joe taking her pick of 10 songs that she was particularly enjoying at time of recording. I'll be back sooner or later with some more songs in the key of something or other else. In the meantime, have a marvellous few days and nights till we meet again.
Give